Hi all, I'd like to welcome you for the next phase, which is the installation and configuration phase. Thank you all for joining. Now for this part, I have a set of installation files which you should receive from your manufacturer, and accordingly I'm going to sort them out. Like for example, in here I would like to install on the front end mail. The front end, I'm gonna go to here, copy all the relevant files, and I'm gonna be copying it over here. I'm gonna be needing the mail system as well for all of them. So instead of copying it to one server, we have the shared folder. I'm gonna simply copy it over here. Now this version of the mail system is V112. So to begin with, in the front end server, we're gonna first start the manager, which is actually the service. So I'm gonna double click, next, just me, next, next, yes, of course. That's it. Done with the service. The service will now be up and running. Click close, delete. Now the console, the MAM console. Double click, next, just me, next, next, yes, and we're done here. Deleting the file and the folder, which is not necessary anymore. Now for the syslog server, we're going to touch later. If you have a syslog in your organization, it's not going to be important to do it, because you can send all the logs into the syslogs of the organization. Okay, once it's done, I'm going to actually copy it over from the shared folder into the desktop. I'm going to do the same on each one of the servers. From the shared folder to the desktop. This is why it's so easy to have a shared folder. It really eases up the process. Once it's done, I'm going to enter it. Go to bin. From here I'm going to look for prep tool app.exe, and I'm going to run it as admin. Now this is going to do some modification for your system. Of course you're going to agree, because this is part of the installation. Mark V, yes. Select product, talking about the mail, yes, and it's going to restart the server at this point. Now you're going to do the same on all the servers. You go to bin, prep, right click, run as admin, yes. To save time, I can go to the other server in the meantime. Bin, prep, right click, run as admin, yes. Now I can go back here, it's done thinking, continue, select product, mail, yes. It's going to restart. I'm going to go back here, yes, choose mail, yes. Okay, now they're all going to restart. Once restarted, log back in on all of them and start with the front end mail. Go back again to V112, bin, prep, right click, run as admin. Choose mail. Now point it back to the 112 to the prep tool sources. It's actually looking for the source. Now you're going to choose the version, which is 204.003 in this scenario. Yes. Now you're going to choose this option. Next. In here, you're going to configure on the message service, you're going to configure the messaging server, which is 192.168 in my example, 482. Port is going to leave empty. On the SMTP, you're going to configure the next hop, which is the exchange. You're going to receive the mail first, and then the next hop on SMTP port 25 will be the exchange server. In my case, in my lab, 70, port 25. In here, change to English. Nothing to touch here. This is the data port, 8787, and the database is the database SQL address, which in my scenario, it's 81 at the end on the same network. My port is 1433, which is a general port for SQL. It's not going to be integrated security, and I'm going to show you later why. The database username will be SASA. The password will be capital A, small a, and just numbers on it. Password is up to you. In a real production environment, you're not going to choose an easy password. At this point, I'm going to hit the save button, successfully save, and I'm going to import the JSON file. Now I'm going to put it on the desktop in the shared folder, which I created. I'm going to simply name it 1 because it makes no difference. I'm going to go back to the shared folder and I'm going to make sure it's there. This 1.json file will be the same file we're going to import on all the other devices instead of configuring it again from scratch. At this point, click Next. Next. Now, since this is the front-end mail, choose Front-end. Apply changes. Successfully saved. Hit the Next button. Now it says you have Internet Information Services, which is IIS 6 missing, and Microsoft SMTP server missing. I'm going to ask for you to help me out and install now. It's going to do that for you. To save time, because this is going to take a little while, you can jump up to the next server, which in our case will be the messaging server. I'm going to go back here, prep, as admin, next, product is mail, is asking me for the sources folder, again, it's on the desktop, v112, prep tool sources, this is the sources, choose version, next, this option right here, next. Now, at this point, instead of reconfiguring the whole thing, I'm going to actually import the JSON we just export in the previous service. Save changes. I'm going to hit Next. Next. Now this is the messaging server. So I'm going to go choose messaging service. It's going to mark up all the relevant ones. I'm going to choose Apply and hit the Next button. Now again, it's saying I have ASP.NET 4.5 missing and IIS 7.5 or higher. I'm going to click Install Now, and to save time we can go to configure the SQL. Now the SQL is the only server that has 3 additional components. The first one is an SQL server. The second one is reporting service, and the third one is the SQL management. the SQL agent, sorry. So for that reason, you can install only if it's a lab environment, you can install only a developer version, not the Express one, because the agent will not turn on. On a real production environment, you can go with standard and above, which means enterprise, professional, whatever SQL version is available in your organization is just fine. So you can simply go online and look for the latest. I'm going to download the developer. Now that it's finished, I'm going to run it. I'm going to choose basic. I accept. Location, I'm going to leave default. Now it's downloading and installing. While that's running, we can go back to the front-end mail and hit the next button. It's gonna pop up that screen, which basically asks you to go here, hit all tasks, backup, restore. So basically you would want to go on the first one, hit the restore button. Now the password is simply 1 2 3 4 5 6. Click OK. It's restoring some processes in the background. Let it. Done successfully. Close and close that window. Hit the next button. Now it asks for your SMTP alias domain. This is the Exchange domain. In my case, I choose this one, which uses me for all the lab environment tests I'm running here. Click the plus sign, save and apply. Front-end installation drive. Now remember we added drive D to all of them. We're going to start using it. The same thing goes here. Hit the install front-end. Installing. Once it's done, click on next. Now it wants to open the shared folders for the usage of the mail system. So you're going to mark all of them. Now we're going to use SASA. Type in the password for that user, which will serve the system, and hit the create button. Now it's giving the error that the user already created. That's correct. The user is already created by us when we created the first image of the 3 servers. So I'm going to ignore that and simply click finish because I'm done here. That was the front-end installation. Now moving on back to the SQL, still running, still downloading. Can go back to the messaging where we stopped. Now that it's installed all the services successfully, I'm going to click the next button. It's asking me for a log service, so the username will be SASA. Password will be the password you gave that user. Confirm. Not create the user because the user already exists, but install log service. Once it's done, go scroll down to create website in IIS. So save GSM folder 2. We're going to choose drive D. Again, we install drive D on all of the servers. So I'm going to hit apply. Now I can see it's still thinking, so I'm going to let it. popping up some successful messages, green colored. So I'm gonna move on and hit apply. Oh, it's already done, sorry. Install message servers. And then when that's gonna be successful, I'm gonna hit install data service, which is port 8787. At this point, I'm gonna head to the Windows firewall, advanced options. I'm gonna go to inbound, add a new port, TCP 8787, which is the data service port on the messaging service. And I'm gonna give it an alphabetic high name so that anyone can see that it's a custom port. Because it's AAA, it's gonna pop up to the top. So I'm gonna leave that so it can be contacted from all the other server. Now, basically I'm done on the messaging server, so I'm gonna hit finish. On the two servers that I'm finished with, I'm gonna delete all the unnecessary files, which is the messaging and the front end. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give them a restart. Go back to the SQL, still downloading. To save time, we can actually go back to the front end mail, sign back in, and open up a firewall rule of port 25 to be actually able to receive mails from outside. Go to advanced firewall, inbound, new rule. That's going to be a port, it's SMTP, so it's port 25. Allow, yes. Finish. Now to make sure you're listening on that port, you can actually do netstat AON find str 25, and you can see that I have an open TCP socket on port 25 listening. This is the process idea, so you can actually view it from the point of a process. Here are the PIDs. This is 2028. To 0.8. The name of the service is this one. Close it. Go back to the SQL. Still running. Now to run databases, there is a really powerful tool which is completely free, and I highly recommend it. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, especially in this case, called SQL. There is a portable version of that. This is what I'm going to be downloading here. That is the portable version, 64-bit. Downloading. Once it's done, just open it. You can drag this entire library. Let's call it SQL here. Simply copy all the files here, and basically you're done. I'm going to actually move it from here into C drive, and then I'm going to drag a shortcut here. Now I'm going to get it ready. Run. I'm going to rename that connection to local host, because I'm going to be connecting to myself, because I'm on the server itself. I'm going to go to Microsoft SQL Server TCP/IP. Now I'm going to choose SASA, and the password we're going to create for that new login in a minute. Hit the save button. There you go. You have a connection. Okay, looks like it's done. Depending on the speed and the bandwidth of your environment, this is how fast it'll go. It's a 1.5 gig installation. So here it's done. Now I can go ahead and install the studio management, but I don't really need it since I have a Heidi SQL, so I'm gonna skip that part. I'm gonna just click connect now, see that I'm connected to SQL. Looks like the installation went good. I'm gonna close it for now. You sure you wanna exit? Yes. I'm gonna open Heidi SQL. Now, instead of going from here, actually there is one more thing that needs to be done. Click the start button, click on the SQL Server Configuration Manager, then go to SQL Native SQL Server Services, go to Service, change it to Automatic, and Apply. Right click, Start. Do the same on Browser. Go to Services, change it to Automatic, right click, Start. Next, you would want to go to SQL Server Network Configuration, go to TCP/IP and enable it. Now it asks for a restart. At this point, I say restart the whole server. Okay, log back in. Actually, my mistake, small correction. Let's go ahead and close this one. Go back to Microsoft SQL Server 2017 or whatever version you're on. Go to the Installation Center. In here, choose Installation, and please do install the SQL Server Management Tools. You will need it, but you'll need it just to start up the system, because there is one tweak to do before we can go ahead and use Heidi SQL, which is way simpler. That's gonna go ahead and download the 807 megabytes. Once it's done, you may click install, and to save time, you're gonna be needing also, while that will run, you're gonna need the reporting services. So go back to the installer and download this one as well. Will save you a ton of time. Alright, so while the reporting services are downloading, you can go back to the installer, install the Server Management Studio, which will allow you to manage the SQL database. It's not as easy as an Heidi SQL tool, but we have to use that to change a value that will allow us to use Heidi. Once it's done, click Close, Start, scroll down to Tools, SQL Tools, and then enter to the Management Studio. Connect. Now the first thing you want to do, you want to right click, go to Properties, Security, and SQL Server and Windows Authenticate. Click OK. It says SQL has to be restarted. Close. Go to Services. At this point you can pin it to the taskbar, which will make it a whole lot easier for you now. Scroll down to SQL Server and restart the service. Done. Now we can go to hide the SQL, authenticate with the Windows authentication, and now you can create a new username. Oh. Okay, so for the users, you're gonna manage it from the studio, which again is here. My mistake, sorry about that. Connect. And from here, system databases, security, logins. You want to create a new login. Now I'm going to name usually SASA. Give it a tough password so it won't be easily hacked. Remove the check marks from here, SQL Server Authentication, and click OK. Done. Now right click, Properties, go to Server Roles, make the user admin, click OK. Now see if you can use Heidi already to sign in. Yes, you can. So basically with the studio management you're done. Let's just double check that we can create new databases. Test DB created. Alright, we have enough permission. We're done with the management. We can minimize Heidi because we don't need it at the moment. And we're good to go. So now we're gonna install the reporting services before we continue to the next step. We just downloaded it, now we're ready to install it. Next, install. Setup complete. Now it wants you to restart. Let's restart the whole server. Now this is a server with an SSD, so obviously it's a whole lot faster. Some of them will take a whole lot more time to restart. I'm done here. I'm going to click Start. I'm going to go to Report Server Configuration Manager. If it's not here, then it will be under SQL Server beneath it. So I'm going to click that, connect, and I'm going to start to configure in my Report Server Manager. I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit apply. It's obviously doing something here. I'm going to go to web service URL. I'm going to hit apply as well. I'm going to open the URL, port 80, report server. Next, we're going to need to create a new database for that. So we're going to go to database. I'm going to click on change database, create new report server database. Next, 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 next. It's doing something. Finish. Now go to web portal URL. My system is kind of jammed. I'm gonna simply wait for it to release. Alright, now this is gonna be your URL. Just hit apply and it's creating the virtual directories. Now we can go to this link. We're basically done with the manager. Oh, service unavailable. Let's find out why. I'm gonna go ahead and try Explorer. Paste the URL, authenticate, username and password just gave it, and it's working. Now in a moment it's gonna pop up and we're gonna have to reconfigure all the libraries to go to the GS warehouse. Give it a second. It's still showing empty, but it's gonna be fixed soon. Now we're gonna close this one and we're gonna go back to the v112 bin prep, just like we did to the other two server, run as admin, and proceed with the installation. Select product mail, just like we did in the previous servers, choose version, next. Choose this option. Now import the JSON from the shared folder which we put on the desktop, save changes, and you can proceed. This is the database. Apply. Next. Everything is good to go. Next. Now, this is the database to restore so that we'll have the GS warehouse. So I'm going to use the SASA user which I created for the database. The location, as all the servers, will also be on drive D. Now I'm going to go ahead and click restore. Looks like it's done. I'm going to go ahead, click next. Report server username will be the same. Report server password will be the same. Database address will be the SQL, which is 481. And then I'm going to hit publish. Wait for it. What's happening really is in the background, on the database level, it's pouring out all the GS warehouse, which we're gonna explore in a bit. Showing some warnings. I'm not gonna get all worked up about it. Now basically we're done. Finish. We are done with the v112 on all three servers. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. I'm going to also delete that from the shared folder. It's almost 1 gig. It's a whole lot of space. And now I'm going to see what's going on when I go to the reports. So again, I'm going to authenticate. Now here's something which is rather repetitive that you have to do. When you go to home, you go to GS, you have data source and reports. On reports, you're going to have to click on those three dots on each one of them, manage, data source, and go to GS, data source, GS warehouse. You may click this location, you may copy this location and simply go over each one of them and do the same procedure. So I'm going to go to domain totals, click on those two dots, manage, and again I'm going to go to data source, click those two dots, cannot paste, so I will simply do that, hit the save button, and then I'm going to go back again and continue. I'm going to do all of those, so I'm going to skip forward. Just simply go each one and do the same. So I'm done configuring all of these. I'm going to close it for now, and I'm going to go back to the mail system. Now a new icon has been opened up. We need to configure the domains we have so that we can relay the messages. Type in user and password. Default is capital A, capital A. After a while, if it doesn't open up, click on the small icon here at the taskbar. Here you go. Now we're gonna have to configure a new group of domains. So I'm gonna add new group. This is the host, which will be the Exchange server or the mail relay, which will indicate who am I sending the mails from SASA to. So in my case, this is the Exchange server. So I'm going to receive the mails first, and then I'm going to pass it to the Exchange server. I'm going to click on Add. Now a new tab has been opened. I'm going to click on Domains, New, add my lab domain. You should add yours if it's a real environment, production. Add the environments domain. If there's multiple, just simply add one by one. Click on Add. Now just go back to the default mail. Hit the Edit button. Make sure the username and password are correct. I'm going to click Update. Now it's asking me to restart the services. Again, I'm going to simply restart the whole server. Finished restarting, log back in. Now there's one last step you need to do on all three of the servers in order for them to be able to communicate. Now you're going to right click, start, go to computer management, go here, then on message queuing, right click, properties, go to server security, disable that check mark but enable this check mark. Hit OK. Now it's asking you, do you want to restart the service right now? You bet. Done. Do the same thing on all servers, all three. So again, right click, computer management, go here, right click, properties, no go, go, no go, go. Okay, restart the same. Now we're going to test ourselves. Now the way to do that is to actually go to external box, external email provider such as Gmail or whatever, and shoot yourself an email. For example, I opened an email box of labadmin@tabletennisreviews.com. I'm going to call it test, and I'm going to hit the send button, and now I'm going to actually be able to view it on the monitoring in process. I'm going to hit the auto update. Now I can view the mail here on the engine, which I have here open in front of me. I can see that the file is being scanned, showing the progress here. So I know everything is alright, the flow is correct, because the email got to the front end mail server, and then the engine pulled it, and then the engine is supposed to bring it back to the mail, and the mail will relay it to the Exchange server, which will relay it to the user. So that one is finished. As you can see, it disappeared.